Okay, I declare this meeting, 26th of April 2021 open. I'd like to welcome Public Gallery back, even though there's only three there. Welcome back into the council chambers. Welcome councillors and staff. I would like to acknowledge the traditional custodians of the land we are on here today, the Wiradjuri people, and pay my respects to their elders, both past, present and emerging. We are having some IT problems, so I inform all those in attendance at this meeting that the meeting is being webcast, and those in attendance will refrain from making any defamatory statements concerning any person, councillor or employee, and refrain from discussing those matters subject to closed council proceedings as indicated in clause 14.1 of the Code of Meeting Practice. The meeting webcast for the April 2021 meeting has been affected by technical difficulties. A temporary webcasting solution has been utilised. This has resulted in lower quality audio output during the webcast. Members of the public gallery should be aware that audio output may broadcast any conversation in the gallery. I noticed that there is one councillor missing, and Councillor Staten has put in an apology. Would somebody like to move that?
I'll move it.
Moved Councillor Goodsall, seconded Councillor Coleman. Those in favour? That carries unanimous. Any declarations of interest?
I have one. Ten point one point two. Security interest. Regards to black and gold. Mentions black and gold. My daughter works there as a apprenticeship.
Thank you. Thank you.
I'll have the same there.
Thank you. Councillor Smith, Councillor Coleman. Confirmation of minutes of last meeting. Moved Councillor Goodsall, seconded Councillor Ring.
I have an amendment to the minutes. Sorry, that I moved an amendment that the Heritage Committee remains an existing committee with its current representatives. At the last council meeting, Councillor McAndrew moved in relation to the item. This is in relation to item. In relation to the committees of the council that were reappointed, and Councillor McAndrew on the video moved. I moved that the committees remain the same there. Councillor McAndrew then moved that the steering committee, Lithgow to Kings Plain, be removed, and the economic development committee remain with all councillors. And this was seconded by Councillor Goodsall. At no stage during this debate, which last council meeting went from 22 minutes and 53 seconds to 27 minutes and 5 seconds, was the Heritage Committee mentioned, yet the minutes show that it's been discontinued. I move that actually be amendment that the Heritage Committee remains an existing committee because it was not moved at the last. The motion that was moved was not the recommendation of the council. It was the motion that was moved by Councillor McAndrew.
Can I just get clarification there on?
Yes,
I'm looking at the minutes, and on page 8 of the minutes, April 22, the Heritage Committee has got discontinued.
That's right. That's correct, but that's not what you moved. You moved. I moved that the committees remain the same. And in your summing up, you did the same thing.
So you're suggesting the minutes are wrong?
I'm saying that the minutes do not reflect the motion that was moved and seconded by Councillor Goodsall. In other words, that the Heritage Committee remains a committee of this council, and it should remain so with its existing representatives.
I'll just get a commentary from the General Manager first before I ask for a second.
So, Mr Mayor, I have a number of, as well as myself, the directors that also retain a recollection that council certainly moved to retain the Economic Development Committee, but it is my recollection that other than that, the table was adopted as recorded in the minutes. But I would have to really look at the video.
Well, Mayor, I moved it, and my main aim was to make sure the steering committee Lithgow to Kings Plains water transfer pipeline project was removed, because it's never ever met and never ever will. My memory, I can't recall if the heritage was one of those committees that and I'm looking at the resolution of the night. Council reconfirmed the council appointments to the section 355 committees, internal committees, external committees and organisations, and the Economic Development Committee focused on the economic diversification project. And that was moved myself and seconded Councillor Goodsall, and it was carried unanimously. So if the Heritage Committee was in there, then I agree with what Councillor Leslie is saying, and I haven't got the old papers in front of me to say whether that's right or wrong.
So Mr Mayor and councillors, the table that appears in the minutes here reflects that which was in the business paper. Mr Mayor just showed me that. And in relation to the substance of what Councillor Leslie is speaking to here, the Heritage Committee, the business paper, as was discussed at the briefing, proposed discontinuation. Now, so the table, from my understanding, was picked up by the council and approved, but there were amendments in the form of that reference to the Economic Development Committee. That's my recollection. I don't remember an amendment coming forward to prevail over that which was in the table here.
Mr Mayor, with respect, the words moved by Councillor McAndrew was, now this is the minutes, I've written it down, I move that the committees remain the same. And the words Heritage Committee never once were mentioned in the entire debate.
Well, I guess the debate goes to what remained the same. The council had a report before it was discontinued. Perhaps a report can bring back a report specifically on the Heritage Committee. The council can bring a charge of discussion on that. But the table was in the report, and it was my understanding that was picked up and embraced and approved by the council under the Economic Development Committee.
And it was certainly my intention there to adopt the paper as written, with those two slight changes. There was some move to change the economic development to less than all councillors. That remained the same. Of course, the Lithgow to Kings Plains water transfer pipeline project was to be removed.
So my understanding of it is then that if the Heritage Committee wasn't in the paper on that night, that it will have to come back at a later date.
Yeah.
Okay, so I shall put the minutes now then, if there's no other.
So, Mr Mayor, I did move an amendment. Is that being either accepted or going to be voted on?
Sorry, is there a second or third, Councillor Leslie?
Yeah, I'll have a second that, because I had people ringing me about the same subject today at the Heritage Committee.
Okay. Does anybody else want to speak in favour of the amendment?
Yeah, I will. I believe that the Heritage Committee was concluded. It was status quo. All committees will stay as they are until after the September election. That's my understanding of the debate. I've also had calls regarding the Heritage Committee as well.
The only thing that I can say is that the Heritage Committee wasn't in the paper. That's so you voted on something that wasn't in the paper. If that's what you're trying to say now, you're virtually going to have a complete change of the minutes, because the Heritage Committee wasn't in the paper and you voted to accept what was in the paper.
No, we're just voting to accept Councillor McAndrew's motion that he moved last month, which was that the committees remain the same.
Councillor McAndrew,
Well,
my understanding, Councillor McAndrew said the committees that was in the paper remained the same.
That's exactly right there. And you can recall there was an attempt to change the economic committee as well, and it's the only two changes I recall from the paper was that and the removal of the Kings Plains pipeline. That's what I put forward. That's what I voted on.
And I never seen the heritage committee come up at any stage during that time.
Just to be clear again, Mr Mayor, it was in the paper, it was in the table, and that was in the recommendation. Now, councils may not have picked up on that, but it was in the table, it was in the recommendation. There were amendments to the recommendation, but the table was moved. Councillors of mine, we can revisit the position of every committee. My vivid recollection is that the table was picked up. There was one committee, the Consolidated Committee, that was abandoned. It had finished its time. And then there was the Economic Development Committee, which was to continue, but the table was picked up.
Mayor, I think we should run with what the general manager suggested, revisit the committees.
Pass amendments and revisit the heritage committee.
Yeah.
Council's happy with that?
Oh, well, I think we need to get the words that you used as a transcript. That would solve the issue.
Look, Mayor, if it does need to be cleared up. If Councillor Leslie's also saying he moved an amendment, well, I haven't got that. It's not written into the minutes.
No, he's moving an amendment now.
Okay, you said earlier that he moved the last time in relation to the committees remain the same.
I didn't speak to the item last.
Okay, well, I misunderstood what you said.
Mr Mayor, can I suggest a way forward might be to exclude any reference to the Heritage Committee in those minutes and add an amendment to the report, come back on the Heritage Committee.
I'm fine with that.
And I'll come to the next thing.
Okay, so I'll put that to council then. Those in favour? Yeah. Somebody move that first. Councillor Woodward. And second, Councillor Smith. Those in favour? Now, it carried unanimous. Thank you. Okay, we move to commemorations and announcements.
Mayor, I have one. I want to acknowledge, thank and congratulate Sky News for that great story they did Sunday week ago on the early mine. Not only showcased the mine and coal mining, showcased the work of coal miners and also what coal mining delivers to this community and to the wider community. It was refreshing to see a positive story about coal and not the continued demonisation of industry and its workers. So I'm just hoping that our local media will pick up on that good story over a week ago.
Thanks. Councillor McAndrew, Councillor Smith.
I'd just like to thank our local community for the great effort they put in yesterday in regards to Anzac Day, and especially out of the Cullenborn community. It was an excellent little march, and myself and councillors Goodwin and McAndrew attended. It was a great roll-up, and it's a credit to the little community. I think it was great.
I'd personally like to congratulate all councillors for their effort yesterday. I think that everybody put in somewhere along the line. I know that I went to the dawn service down here at Lithgow at Queen Elizabeth Park. It was a surprise, really. There was about 50 people there, which was a real surprise, and they streamed the service from Canberra, where the Prime Minister spoke. So it was quite good, really. And then at 11 o'clock, Councillor Bissell and myself went down and made another brief. Not quite so many people there then. It was only about a dozen. But once again, by driving around Lithgow just before the dawn service, I noticed a lot of people in their driveways with candles and so forth. So Anzac Day is alive and well, and thank you very much, councillors, for your input.
In the same vein, Mayor Thompson, I'd like to acknowledge the work and the collaboration between the Portland's RSL sub-branch, the Portland SES and RFS and Lithgow Council in organising not only the dawn service, but service later in the day. Obviously, the dawn service was extremely well run, and it is a credit to them putting that together within 2 weeks.
Thanks, Councillor Ring. Any others?
Just one, Mr Mayor. Just want to congratulate Ray Delosa, another big win. Well, Mr Mayor. It was just to thank on behalf of councillors the Lithgow Community Power Project that we were invited to their electronic vehicle drive day, and it was really enlightening. They're a volunteer group that are putting in a lot of hard work, and I'd just like to say thank you on behalf of the council.
Thanks, Councillor Goodson. Okay, we move to public forum. If there's anybody in the public forum that would like to speak on any item on the agenda tonight. No? Okay, well we move to item 8, Merrill Minute. I was pleased to lead a delegation to Muswellbrook Shire Council on the 14th of April. We heard of initiatives taken by that council to diversify their economy. The delegation was attended by the Mayor, myself, Deputy Mayor, General Manager by Gideon Lee, and the Director of Economic Development, Mr Muir. The Muswellbrook representatives included Mayor Martin Rush and General Manager Fiona Pesman. Also, along with those went Ed Trader, who's the regional representative of the Department of Premier and Cabinet in the regional areas, and he resides at Orange across as well. Similarities between the two areas in coal mining and electricity generation provide common ground for information sharing and collaboration. In Muswellbrook's case, foreshadowed mine and power station closures are anticipated as a result in the loss of approximately 900 jobs in upcoming years, and the council's initiative plan for the transition were very interesting. For example, Muswellbrook have researched the level of investment that is required to offset and replace jobs at risk in the mining sector. This then led to new funding models to support the creation of an outsourced and entrepreneurial model of economic development tasks to grow and attract replacement jobs and industries. The council has also set up a rating structure whereby coal mining interests are charged comparatively higher rates through the SRV process. Funds accumulated are then placed into a future funded and administration and investment for transition-based initiatives through the Economic Development Corporation. Part of the work carried out thus far has been dedicated to research, which has, for example, mapped potential areas for pumped hydro development. Funding has also been directed towards STEM, which stands for Science, Technology, Education and Mathematics for Muswellbrook's youth. An invitation has been extended for reciprocal visit to Lithgow, and through the development of the relationship, it is hoped that further ongoing collaboration with Muswellbrook and other similar local government areas can be fostered. This visit will help us as we also are working to diversify and strengthen Lithgow's economy. The General Manager intends to convene a meeting of the Council's Economic Development Committee to engage the Council on this significant task. The recommendation is that the information in the Merrill Minute be noted and a letter of thanks be sent to the Muswellbrook Shire Council. Is there any commentary there, councillors?
I'd like to say a few words.
Yeah.
Mayor Thompson. When I read this Merrill Minute, I thought, yeah, this is a great start. It points out jobs for the future. We definitely need to diversify our economy, investment in training. However, I am concerned about the economic gap and the salary level. We need to ensure that if we're looking at diversifying our economy, that there's no cap. I mean, you've got high value wage jobs. We need to be making sure that they're the same salary rate. We need to be lobbying the state government to invest in TAFE college here in Lithgow, so that we can support the jobs of the future. We also need an hourly train service, so if workers are able to obtain jobs here locally, that they can at least obtain jobs, in the mountains and further. We don't want to lose our residents to the east. We want to encourage them from the east to move west to Lithgow. But I think this is a great start, and it's great that you actually went and saw Muswellbrook Shire Council.
Thanks, Councillor Coleman.
Yeah, Mayor, if I
Councillor Ring.
Look, I'm glad that you went to Muswellbrook and discussions we've had. It's interesting you had used to explain that trade. In relation to the rating base, obviously the government's just relaxed or changed the rules on the number of categories we can have, which is something that I believe Mr. Gurney's team will be looking at into the future. That will not increase our revenue base. but it will allow for greater fairness and transparency in what rates are paid by what commercial operators. So we may see some change in industries across the board. As for the future, we need to have a plan. It's not just a matter of going to the government cap in hand. We need to think about our future, and the general manager, through I think it's the Premier, has got a program going which will see us commit 100,000, the government commit 250,000 to take the plan that was done by our working party that much further into a more detailed plan that allows us to move forward. We're not going to retain necessarily a lot of high-paid jobs. That's great. Sounds good. There are miners that when the mines close, hearing all sorts of things about the mines. Councillor Smith, McAndrew know better. The report that Councillor McAndrew was talking about earlier, I believe Kate Brazel talked about earlier, having 10 years. Miners will follow the work. If they can get work and fly in, fly out, a lot of people are flying, fly out, they will. We need jobs which are diverse. We need a range of jobs, and they'll be low paying, they'll be high paying. But we need to work and knock on doors and make it happen. But I congratulate you for going up and talking and giving advice.
Eric, if I could just touch on a few major points in relation to the meeting. The meeting took pretty well close to 5 hours. It was a long meeting and a lot of issues were discussed, and I made copious notes, but I just want to touch on a couple of things that stood out for me. The council has a future fund, a specific account, specific to the future in jobs and growth and training, and the like, similar to the issues raised by both Councillor Coleman and Councillor Ring. That sits pretty well specific and only be used for the future. They've also got an external economic development group. I found that interesting as well. Their council, of course, votes on the final outcomes of those, but it's an external economic development group. They're facing in the short term, I think 2025, I think they said 900 jobs lost with the closure of the Liddell Power Station and associated mines. But importantly and worse as well, is they're saying about 300 jobs in total, with the flow-on effects of jobs associated with both of those industries. And that's the point of view I've been trying to get through here for some years when we lost Wallerawang and Angus Place. It wasn't just the loss of those two, it was a flow-on effect of all of our industries and all of our businesses within all of our local government area. Yeah, they're looking at pump hydro into the future, but it will require state and private funding. And I heard just coming back from that meeting that there's something like, state government's looking like something like $40 million being put into that area for the issue of pump hydro. So, you know, that's, you know, they can't do it all on their own. We've got to, it's quite clear, and like the mayor made it very plain that they're knocking on political doors all the time, the political path to follow. They're pushing for permanent skills-based jobs and major projects all the time. Jobs are their main focus. That was clear throughout the whole 5 hours of the conversation. And they're chasing grant funding for job creation at any level, everywhere, federal, state, any chance they get. And they do have special rate levels for coal mining and power generation. And I understand, I'm standing corrected by the General Manager, but that's one of the aspects that we'll be engaging with their staff with very clearly in relation to how they organise their rates. Their rating comes from certainly from those two major industries. So all in all, I think it was very successful, and I look forward to hosting them here, certainly, hopefully, in the near future.
Thanks, Councillor Andrew. Councillor Leslie.
Just a question to Mr. Gurney, if I may. Has Lithgow Council already set up a process by which coal mines and that would be charged rates at a different rate than we're currently doing? I thought we had that process in hand.
We did initiate a rating subcategory for power stations.
Coal mines have always been rated fairly highly, a lot higher than power stations were virtually getting all free for a long, long time.
Virtually nil.
Okay, if there's no more conversation. conversation on that, I shall put that in a minute. Those in favour? Thank you, carried unanimous. 8.2, Beryl Minute, Lithgow Aged Care. Since the announcement in February that Lithgow Aged Care would not be able to operate as an accredited aged care provider beyond April 2021, Council has been working tirelessly making representations to our local federal member, the Commonwealth Department of Health, the Australian Aged Care Quality Agency and the Lithgow Aged Care Board, seeking to achieve very different outcomes. During this time, the primary objective of Council has always been to ensure the ongoing safety and well-being of the residents. That Lithgow Aged Care residents remain housed close to the established support networks in Lithgow, and that Lithgow Aged Care employees retain their jobs and entitlements. In February 2021, Council was advised by the Australian Government that the decision to not renew Lithgow Aged Care's accreditation was made on the basis of 38 non-compliances out of 42 conditions. This decision was obviously going to impact a significant number of our community members, including the 70+ residents and their families, the staff and their families, and the long-term future of Lithgow. Council General Manager initially wrote to the Chair and CEO of Lithgow Aged Care to encourage a strategy beyond the appeal of the decision. The Council also commenced advocating for Lithgow Aged Care with representatives of the Honourable Andrew GMP, Senator Tony Sheldon, and representatives of the Commonwealth Department of Health. Thankfully, on the 16th of April 2021, it was announced that the long-term future of Lithgow Aged Care facility had been secured, with the ownership being transferred to Respect, a not-for-profit aged care provider with aged care homes in New South Wales, Victoria and Tasmania. With the transfer of the ownership to Respect, all existing residents and staff will remain in place as the transfer occurs. I'm confident that Respect understands the challenges LAC has faced and by taking ownership and responsibility. Respect will use their expertise to maintain and improve their facility. Already the new owners are making changes with significant improvements made to maintain full accreditation and rectify all non-compliant requirements. Once the facility is compliant and full accreditation is achieved, Respect have given undertakings to develop the site, expanding the number of rooms as well as construction of a specialist dementia care unit. Council General Manager has reached out to the new owners to thank them for their investment in the city and to offer a working relationship. I'm personally thrilled with this very favourable outcome and appreciative of the support provided by the Honourable Andrew G, Senator Tony Sheldon and Commonwealth Department of Health. On behalf of Lithgow Council and the entire Lithgow community, I wish the new owner a long and flourished future in Lithgow. I also thank the residents, staff and their families for having the faith in our city. I'm very pleased with the role the Council played in achieving this outcome. It demonstrates what can be achieved when levels of government work together in the best interest of this city. The recommendation is that the Council note the wonderful outcome and convey our appreciation on behalf of the city. Thank you. Commentary, councillors?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Yep.
Okay, thank you. It's very disappointing that this very minute came at, I received and read it at 10 minutes to 7 when I came into this room. This information has been in the public domain for at least a week, and I would have thought that we should have had it earlier. As a result, I would have liked to have prepared a full statement about this, but I'll do my best in the short time I've had to just hear what you said and consider the issues. But basically, Lithgow residents were screwed. And it was extremely lucky, in my mind, extremely lucky that the facility ended up with Respect, a reputable, community-focused provider. Now, it was a near-run thing. That it didn't end up with a billionaire for-profit company. After all, this was the recommendation that was given to the Department of Health by their consultants. Lithgow Aged Care should have remained in local hands. We should have honoured the people who built it. The power station workers who gave money, you know, on a fortnightly basis from their pay for many years to do it. The people who ran the cake stalls, you know, to provide money so that the facility could be built at the time. The local business people who supplied, you know, enormous amounts of money to make this both Corinda and Tandera work. And Lithgow Council itself, who supplied the land and support and ensured that the buildings were done with support from the council staff to get this right. One of the things I will say is that at no stage were the residents of Lithgow Aged Care in their health and their quality of life was never in doubt. That was something that every aged care commission audit determined. There was certainly the standards failed, 38 of the 42. Well, isn't that interesting that when the facility was put into sanctions, Lithgow Aged Care, the board, not just the last board, but earlier boards, were required to provide an administrator and consultants at great expense. These administrators and consultants had to be approved by the Aged Care Quality and Safety Commission. So they were commission approved consultants. Well, how good a job did they do? At the end of this whole process, these consultants left a facility where 38 of the 42 standards were not met. I don't think that's something that the Aged Care Commission can be proud of. And I don't believe that the board, either the last one or the earlier boards, could do anything about that. They were stymied by the support they were not getting. The Aged Care Commission they're very good as policemen. They can come in, they can certainly make sure that standards are being met. But where was the advice? Where was the help? Where was the monitoring? Where was the mentoring?
Councillor, I think that you've had a fair run at that. We're here to say that Lithgow Aged Care is in new hands, it's in respect, and going back over what you're going over, it's immaterial now. Lithgow Aged Care is now in new hands, and I can't see you going back over old water that is going to reflect anything from what's happened now.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I think it's very disappointing that you choose to do that. All I'm saying is that the people of Lithgow were screwed, and we should honour them for the work they did in building that facility, and we should thank the staff who, under enormous difficulties, maintained their support and their loyalty. It was something that was incredible to watch, and it was very, very disappointing to me, and I think it was extremely disappointing that the facility was not able to remain, as it should have, in community hands, local community hands.
Thank you, Councillor Leslie. Anybody else?
Yeah, Mayor, if I could, look, I thank you for your mayoral minute. I think it's quite well done. In fact, and it acknowledges and thanks rightly those people who were involved. And I go to these 3 dot points on page 1. I'll read them out again. During this time, the primary objective of council has always been to 1, ensure the ongoing safety and well-being of the residents. We did that. 2, the Lithgow Aged Care residents remain housed close to their established support networks in Lithgow. We achieved that. And that the Lithgow Aged Care employees retain the jobs and entitlements, which we achieved as well. I think it's a great outcome. Look, at one stage I thought we'd reached that D-Day of the 16th of April, we wouldn't have someone to come in and take it over. I honestly believe we got very, very close to that occurring. And that was the worst possible outcome that could have occurred. I think this is a great outcome, and I look forward to seeing Lithgow Aged Care to continue on, to move into their new areas and continue to provide a good facility for our older residents. Look, I said at the time, and I say again now, if we had lost it, we ended up with just 2 remaining aged care facilities within our local government area, at Portland and at Lithgow. Nowhere near big enough to take our ageing population. So this has been a great outcome, a great win, and I want to personally thank you and congratulate you and the GM, because I know during this period the phone never stopped, either by you or the GM talking to the people that mattered, trying to make sure we got a successful outcome in relation to this issue. So I'm happy that we still have Lithgow Aged Care there and to operate into the future.
Councillor Ring.
Mayor Thompson, I don't agree with anything that Councillor Worsley said. I'm not going to debate it here. You're right. The outcome is the best for the community. The aged care facility is surviving. It will move into the future, and with any luck, it will grow. The administrators appointed by the government, Ernst Young, had a long association with the home. When I was on the board, March 2020, would provide a significant funding from the government to keep the home open. Without it, March 2020, the home would have been in receivership. Ernst Young have had a long involvement. They were aware of all the issues, including staff underpayments. They'd read all the reports, and this is why they came in as, I believe, the administrators. They got a good outcome, and I'm excited for the staff who are happy. I know a lot of staff still there stayed because they did not want to leave the residents. And I believe that the facility will grow. It will grow in the future, continue to serve this community. I'd also like to point out that community boards face the same level of regulation under the Corporations Act that BHP does. And the world has changed from what it was 50 years ago. It is a complex world, and you have to be fully aware of the government's roles and legislation. It is complex. So kudos to respect for coming in. I look forward to them serving this community for a long time.
Thank you, Councillor Ring. Any others? I shall put that down, those in favour. Against? We move to 9.1, notice of motion, Councillor Ring. Got a second?
Happy to second.
Mayor Thompson, I do have an additional point which I've sent through to Trinity and agreed on, and I'll read that out. It is that Lithgow Council actively engage with the private sector to promote Lithgow as a viable location for electric bus manufacturing facility and other advanced manufacturing industries.
Yeah, happy with that, Councillor?
I'd be happier if it's private sector and government.
Well, I'm happy with the change until private sector.
Yeah, private sector and government, because that's the only way it's going to go.
Yeah, no, I'm not getting rid of the first one. I'm just adding an additional point.
Like I said, I'm happy with the additional point with that government added to it.
Okay, look, I'm happy with that, yeah, with that.
Okay.
Okay.
Right, Councillor Ring.
This was raised with me late last week by a number of members of the community. I spoke to the mayor on his return from Muswellbrook on Thursday. I put this together quickly so that I could make this meeting. I have had a couple of discussions since having to put it in with our local member, Paul Till. This is not about retrofitting buses. This is about building a new fleet in New South Wales. And I'm aware that there's already a company down Barrel investing several $1 million in upgrading the facility. We need to be engaging with the private industry to sell this gun as a viable location for manufacturing, not just for buses, but for advanced technologies. We've got a lot going for ourselves. We need to be pushing ourselves to the industries and selling Lithgow and getting them to come. We also need to be knocking on the doors of the ministers and the government and engaging with them so we understand what's coming forward in the future, what changes are coming. This is critical in moving forward. We need to be actively engaged with both the government and the private sector. We need to look at opportunities. Green spot is something that we should be, as a council, behind 100%. The types of industries that we can attract to this community and the growth attached to that, to me, is mind-boggling. We really need to work hard as a council to go down that path. That's all I've got to say.
Councillor Kendrick.
And very happy, Mayor, to second and support it. I want to make a couple of comments in relation to it. And I know Councillor Ring made a comment that people were opposed to, and I know that the Chamber, I think, recently had a media release in relation to it as well, picked up on it, which is great. And I've reread the press release by Barry Calvert, and he certainly talks about not just buses, but any opportunity that Lithgow has, being on the doorstep of Sydney, to provide those types of jobs for the wider Sydney area. And can I say as well, though, it shows once again the good decision, the smart decision we took in becoming a member of West Rock and the value in that. Now, this press release didn't happen by accident. This press release followed, Mayor, as you recall, after a meeting that we had here in Lithgow earlier in the year between Barry Calvert and West Rock CEO Charles Casichelli to talk specifically about this, to ask them for their support in trying to get some opportunities for job creation in our local government area. So it's not a fluke that this press release come out. It's as a result of that good meeting we had earlier in the year. And you know, Mayor, that we're continuing to meet with, talk to both Barry Calvert and the CEO Charles Casichelli on every time we can in relation to try and promote our area and promote jobs.
Thank you. Councillor Kendrick, any other commentary? Councillor Connor.
Yes, I also support the notice of motion. The Lithgow community expects us to advocate for any manufacturing opportunities, and it touches on what you said in your mayoral minute. We need to diversify our economy. So important going into the future.
No other commentary, councillors? I shall put that those in favour. Thank you. That's unanimous. Notice of motion, Councillor Coleman.
Thank you, Mayor Thompson.
Everyone second. Second, Councillor Bristol. Councillor Coleman.
Thank you, Mayor Thompson. I just want to start with the management's comment, because in the management comment states appears and understood. So I want to get some clarification in regards to that comment. Can I confirm if any staff have actually spoken to the Blue Mountain City Council? Can I confirm that Blue Mountain Council has a tourism licensing scheme? And can I confirm if that in the Blue Mountains that commercial operators are actually charged application and license fees? As I said, the reason for my question is the language in the management comment is an ecotourism licensing scheme appears. It is understood. So did anybody actually speak to the Blue Mountains Council? Is there actually a definite answer?
Thank you. It's on their website. It comes on their website. That was the research that was done. And yes, there are. It outlines what their ecotourism licensing scheme is, and that's just summarised there. And there is the licensing and annual fees as well, and it's on a scale depending on the type of activity it appears to be. But that was a very cursory piece of research to try and assist in understanding what it means.
Thank you. I just want to come back to my notice of motion, and the recommendation, firstly, is regarding the Council Environmental Advisory Committee, and the wider committee have provided with adequate time to comment. I attended the Environmental Advisory Committee a week or two ago, and they were very, very upset in regards to the lack of consultation, the lack of information, and the opportunity to actually consult on this particular issue, the Hasselhoff Mountain Bike Trail tragedy. So it's strategy, sorry, not tragedy, it's strategy. Slip of the word there. So it's really important that we get adequate, wide community comment. It's really important. The other part of our recommendation is regards to ecotourism licensing. It's to investigate the option. All we need is to investigate the option, and once it's come back as a report, then we can go further from there.
Thank you, Councillor Coleman, Councillor Gibson.
I've just got a couple of questions for Councillor Coleman, if that's okay.
Yes, that's fine.
What is an ecotourism licensing scheme? That's my first question.
Basically, it looks at the opportunity to, charge those who want to be, like, it's commercial operators, so we charge them. If they, for example, Hassels Wharf Road, if they want to use Hassels Wharf Road, we charge them a licensing fee. It's about economics.
Okay, so can I ask another question? So what gaps or problems have you identified regarding our current lease agreements for operators that operate on council managed land, say for Lake Lowe? What sort of impact would it have on them?
Well, that's why I want them to investigate and bring a report back. I'm not an expert on this. I want the council to investigate the introduction of ecotourism license scheme. If we think it's good for us, then we adopt it. If we don't, we don't. Basically, I want them to investigate the option.
Can I ask an administration question, please? So can I ask then how council currently manage commercial-based recreation activities within its reserve? So say something like Lake Lyle has a lease agreement, what sort of impact would an ecotourism scheme have on existing operators?
It's a good question. I don't know that it would. I think we're talking about here our reserves, which would be distinct, for example, for Lake Lyle, which is not a reserve, and also Crown reserves managed by council as well, which is probably the second part of it. So in relation to, and once again, I'm going to talk about what I understand from some cursory research. I mean, I understand that Blue Mountain, certainly there are a number of commercial operators. I understand in terms of such things as that sailing and rocks logs, and they also talk about horse riding in their documentation, that they are, if they happen in those reserves, that they are able to charge a licence fee and an ongoing fee for that activity. I'm not aware really of any current operators, commercial operators in our area that would apply to or affect. But once again, that might take some research.
Anything else, Councillor Gibson?
I just probably don't understand why it would impact on mountain bike strategy if there's not commercial operators in that strategy. That's what I sort of don't understand.
Mr. Neil?
Well, it's a good question. I suppose probably there is one approved official trail that has laws at the moment, which is not run, in my understanding, by a commercial entity. But I suppose if you extrapolate that, and if the strategy gets the okay from council to proceed, and down the track, if there was to be construction and perhaps commercial entities operating such a thing, then perhaps it will be right.
Anything, Councillor? Councillor Ring?
Yeah, Thompson, ecotourism is licensing, not just to make money. It's done extensively. National Parks have a very good eco licensing program. Doesn't just cover going on to bushland. It covers going into historic sites, Estate House, that sort of thing. It's about regulating the use and not allowing overdevelopment and ensuring that the correct thing is done. Particularly in areas, as you said, up in the Blue Mountains, as you said, with abseiling, rock climbing, there are a lot of safety issues. I have no problem with looking at a broad commercial licensing program, which could encompass photographers, commercial photographers, wedding photographers, as well as tours for estate accounts. I do have individuals, small private businesses, done work for council before. They haven't. I'm not going to go into detail in council, but I will be meeting with Mr. Neil to discuss it. It's not a money grab. It's more to regulate large numbers. We don't, I believe, have large numbers of people operating within our reserves. In fact, I've asked at the last Environment Committee if we could get advice on what bushlands we actually manage. What is the size of our bushland reserve? I think a report coming back would be good, but I think it needs to be broad to look at all the aspects. Is it worth doing? It's not enough just to have an ecotourism program putting more than a licence fee. Because unless you've got the staff and the resources to go out and police it, it's a waste of time. And that was the response of the industry in the Blue Mountains when National Parks started doing this years ago. You had people doing the right thing, paying the money, and then you had road operators coming in and no one was out there stopping them. So we need to look at the pros and cons. It's not just about, oh, we could get money. What's at risk? Do we have any reserves that are at significant risk of overuse or overdevelopment? Is anyone doing rock climbing on our reserves? And is the cost of enforcing those licenses more than the licence fees are? These are things we need to consider. But I trust the administration bringing back a report will consider all those things. Thank you.
Yeah, could I, just make a couple of comments and ask a couple of questions. Look, the motion has merit. If I'm reading the management comments, part one of the recommendations has been satisfied. Because the management comment extension comment the draft asset walls mountain bike strategy is reasonable, so I take it that means yes. I'm just questioning whether Friday, May the 7th will allow enough time for that, but I'll be guided by Councillor Coleman. And I also am I'm a little bit confused with the management comment in relation to the ecotourism licensing scheme. If I'm reading it as well, I think it seems to support it, but I'm not that sure. Bearing in mind, of course, that the recommendations only ask for a investigative report to come back to council. So I support it, but I'm just questioning whether the May the 7th is long enough. I don't know about other councillors, but I've received 2 emails opposing the mountain bike strategy, Hasson's Walls, and I did ask questions before. The other concern I've got is that we're trying to do a plan of management for Hasson's Walls itself, and I'm just wondering how we manage all that. And we're trying to do that. We're still, I know later in the paper there's an article, an item on that decision we took some months ago regarding access, egress and ingress up to in and out of the area. So I'm just wondering how it all ties together. And of course, as I said, whether the mountain bike strategy timeline is a bit tight to allow people to have a comment.
Thank you, Councillor Kendra. Any other commentary? Right, reply, Councillor Coleman.
Just touching on the date, May 7th, I don't believe that is enough time. I think it should be extended until at least May 14th. At least give them some little bit of leeway to the middle of May. So I'd like to change that, if I may, Mayor Thompson, in regards to that. I think everybody's happy with that. But otherwise, yeah, I'm happy that I need that change to come ahead.
Happy to change again, Councillor?
Sure. Yeah.
Okay, well, if there's no other commentary, then I shall put it. Thank you. That's correct. You know. Proposed license fee agreement with Collaborate Eagle Sports Association.
Happy to,
Evan?
yeah. But I'd like to defer it, I'm not sure how.
Right, I've got a second.
Sorry.
Happy to second over to Earl.
Councillor Ring. Yeah, Councillor Wilson.
Mayor Thompson, I'd like to move to defer this item based on information that council has received this afternoon, which potentially implicates council. We received representations from the Lithgow District Netball Association, and there were many issues raised, very long and lengthy email, but specifically concerning council was the alleged unlawful use, some alleged building concerns, the WHS concerns. And I think that all these impact on council, and I think that we should investigate before a lease is put.
a complete change in the recommendation, councillor Ring, you have to second that?
Yeah, I'm happy to see the third. We need, based on what's come through, we need clarification and advice.
So do you want to speak to it, councillor Ring?
Yes, Mayor Thompson, sorry, look, just briefly, I concur with what Councillor Goods has said. I think most councillors agree. We've had issues that have been raised, that raise concerns. They need to be dealt with, and possibly the licence agreement needs to be reviewed with some sort of appropriate mechanism for dispute resolution. I'm not sure, but I think we need to resolve these issues before signing off on any agreement.
Any other, councillor?
I'd like to add a third point, if I could, to Councillor Goodsall's. I just want to add that the fact that I'd like to see a meeting called between the management of the Wayne Indoor Sports Committee, the Lithgow Netball Association, the council, and you and the deputy mayor involved in this to really come back with a very good report on what's going on out there. Unlike everybody else, we've all got a very detailed letter today from Lithgow Netball, and there was a lot of stuff that's not good in that. So I'd like the mayor and the deputy mayor involved with the general manager and both the Wayne Indoor Sports Association Committee and the Lithgow Netball, or whoever else uses it. We need all parties involved in this to really sort this out. This came up at the Sports Advisory meeting last week. It was also, I've spoken to two people after that since then, and they said it's not a good look.
So we've got a motion to say it be deferred.
Yes.
Point one, and the second one is that a meeting be called with all stakeholders.
Parties, including yourself, the deputy mayor, and general manager.
Okay. You happy with that, councillor Little? Councillor Ring?
Yeah, more than that.
Okay, so put that down. Those in favour? Carried unanimous.
Mayor Thompson, I'd like to move 10.12 if I could.
Second.